Welcome to another episode of Hat Collecting, the multi-passion experience. For this month, July, it's Disability Pride Month. So this month we're doing the disability experience. I am your host, Lacey Artemis. My pronouns are she and they. I am a white, young 40-year-old feminine presenting person with long brown hair and a pink shirt today. And I am joined today by my guest, Kellina Powell. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay, for having me today. Hello, everybody. My name is Kellina Powell. I am wearing an orange t-shirt. I'm also wearing the glasses, which is black, and my hair is very curly, brown, light brown. And my background is white cabinet, and then I have a yellow background, and a window chill, which is white. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
yeah, thank you. Yes, for this month, I'm trying to do my best to remember to provide visual descriptions for, I was going to say viewers, for listeners who may be visually impaired or blind. So thank you for doing that with me. Can you give a brief bio for yourself? Tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about you, what you do, and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Kellina Powell, aka the Duck Queen Boss. I am an international speaker. I'm a fourth-time author. Yes, I do have 4 books out on Amazon, and I'm also a coach for young adults with disabilities, specifically for youth as well. And what else am I doing? I think that's it for now. I have so many hats, but that's all I have for today. And yeah, and what got me here today is because I actually became deaf at the age of 4 due to an ear infection. So I go by hard of hearing. And so yeah, I wasn't born deaf, which is very interesting because I had to learn how to communicate both hearing community and the deaf community. So that's how it leads me here today. Just really showing other people, no matter what life throws at you, especially your disability, it doesn't mean that your life stops. Your life does not stop. You can continue doing what however you were doing before, right? So that nothing stops. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really awesome. You've outpaced me by 3 books, so I got some catching up to do. But yeah, so we're here today to talk, as you might have guessed by that introduction, about being hard of hearing or the deaf community kind of more broadly. And this is I was a late diagnosed autistic person myself, and I have auditory processing issues. I've also got some degree of tinnitus from well, probably mostly from listening to loud music when I was younger. I've not done that in a long time. But I wear earplugs very often to help me with sensory overload. And so that impacts my ability to hear. The tinnitus does as well. And then just natural aging, your hearing, you tend to experience hearing loss. But the other thing I have here, just briefly show, hopefully this will show up on the camera. So this is for the people who may not be able to see. I am holding in my hand right now a silicone custom molded, they're called musicians earplugs, and so they do a mold of your ear canal, and it's got like a little filter device in it, and you plug this into your ear, and it has foam earplugs normally they block out certain ranges of the frequency spectrum more than others, so it impacts what you hear and how well. These devices, kind of my understanding is that they equally affect the entire frequency range. So it's kind of like bringing your natural hearing range all equally down the same amount of decibels. So I find them extremely helpful at loud events, at like conferences and things like that. Um, but that's just a quick little aside there. So yes, we're talking about deafness and being hard of hearing. So the kind of first question that I have here on my list, how does your disability impact, influence, or inspire the work that you do? You kind of already touched on this somewhat, but so kind of like the idea of advocacy versus just living your life and you happen to have a disability. And if you do advocacy, what forms of advocacy do you do?
Yeah, so for me, honestly, like I said before, everyone, so I did become deaf at age of 4, but it goes deeper and behind that. When I was growing up, I noticed that my mental health was little walking, I would say. And I didn't really have anybody to look up to or even have a role model to look up to. So back in the old days, there was not a lot of TV shows that were characters that were disabilities. So I didn't really have somebody to look up to, think, oh my God, if that person can do it, I can do it. And so for me, when I got into my work and my advocacy work, especially for the youth community, I realized that there's not a lot of us out there, especially specifically for the disability community, it's very hard for us to get what we want. And I noticed that the only way for me to make a change in the world, and I did not want anybody to feel what I felt when I was younger. And so that's why I did my advocacy work. And for those who are wondering what kind of advocacy work do I do? So I do a lot of partnership with organizations, nonprofit, schools, just to really create like a community workspace for people coming together to educate each other one another about different things. And number two, I also do a lot of community work. And so I do sometimes donate food, clothing for the community. So that's what kind of advocacy work I do. But the whole point of me doing what I'm doing now is because I realized that I did not want anybody to feel alone in this world, especially how hard it is now, especially now the whole social media, the new norm of living the best lifestyle and the whole flashy lifestyle. So when I tell people what I do and people was like, oh my God, like, you can actually live a normal life without having to face hardship. There shouldn't be no way to facing hardship, but now technology has improved so much. And so I've been trying to educate other people like, hey, like, why are we all, especially the disability community, why are we so isolated from the world? Like, we don't even need to do that. Now that technology has improved so much and there's so much work, yes, there's so much work that needs to be done. However, there are still a process going, but in a good way, right? The things are still going in a good direction. So
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. As I have come to be one to say, technology and social media, like it certainly can be a force for good and a tool for good if it's used the right way. So I'm glad to see that, like disabled communities and LGBTQ communities, it's been able to bring a lot more people together that otherwise wouldn't have been able to connect, which is wonderful. Um, I believe I recall I watched a recent interview that you did with I forget her name now, but you were talking about your experience dating as a deaf person, and I think you said in that interview that you did not learn, or you like know some sign language, but you mostly just lip read.
yeah.
Um, have you found I guess I'm curious about that because I know I have met when I was at the event that I met you at in person for the first time, which was organized by Hard to Hear It. That was kind of a thing that I kind of would have thought that everyone would have had more sign language ability, but it's not something obviously that is purely necessary. But was that sort of like a more conscious choice on your part, or you just I'll let you speak to that a bit more?
Yeah, no, it just so my okay, my family had me at a young age. So my family didn't know what they were doing. When they became deaf, so they were young adults, they didn't know anything about the deaf community. So my family were trying to figure out how to help me to navigate my own self. So they
Mhm.
made a good decision by putting me in the deaf school in the morning and then put me in a hearing school in the afternoon. So I was trying to balance both schools and both communities. So I was trying to juggle both, especially language. Language is very important for everything you do. And so, unfortunately, because the Dutch school was very far from my home, my family had to take me out of it and go to the hearing school full time in grade four. And when I went to hearing school full time, I didn't learn my sign language. So not everybody in my family learned sign language. So that's why I didn't really continue learning my sign language because I couldn't. And
Mhm.
I didn't have the readers around me. I didn't have a sign language interpreter in the hearing school, unfortunately. I didn't have that. And so my family did accommodate me, try to figure out how can we help a little girl who clueless about accessibility. And so my family tried the best the hardest. And yes, I feel bad I don't know my sign language, but now I would say last year I just started taking a courses on sign language now. So now I'm getting a bit better with my sign, but that's what happened, right? Sometimes you don't always have the resources out there, especially for interpreter purposes. And And there's not a lot out there, to be honest. And so that's why my family just continue letting me speak vocal instead of learning sign language.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I might have mentioned this on another episode in the series. So much goes on, I don't always remember who I told what, but I ended up taking sign language courses or classes about 10 or so years ago. And it wasn't ooh, I just really want to learn this. It was that a friend of mine wanted to take the class and she knew that I liked to learn new things. And she said, hey, do you want to come take this with me? And I said, that sounds kind of cool. Let's try it. And I
Yeah.
actually really enjoyed it, and I've been kind of sad that like I've learned a couple of different languages as an adult, and as they say, if you don't use it, then you lose it. And I never really had a reliable way to keep using these other languages, so I still understand some of them, but I'm very rusty and I can't really speak myself anymore. So that's something as well. I've been really wanting to refresh on it because I know that the older I get, the more that's going to come in handy for me as well. But yeah, that's a good point that not every family, even in terms of disabilities like autism or ADHD, families may not necessarily know how to kind of help better than aside from like the most basic and obvious of accommodations. So that's a good point to acknowledge for sure. So what accommodations related to your disability and the level of hearing loss that you have should people be like aware of, and what simple things can they maybe change about their actions or the behaviors to make it easier?
For me, I would say based in me all the time. It's very important that if you are always moving your head while you're speaking to me, I would not understand what you're saying. For those who don't know, I am very cute on lip reading. So I really need to read your lip all the time. So sorry. And number two, I would say your tone, right? When people talk, I know some people talk very aggressive with their voice. And I have a very soft voice. I really do because of my communication style. And number three, I noticed that a lot of time when people have an accent, which is definitely something I'm really, really trying to get, to talk a little bit slower when they have an accent. And so I know a lot of time people don't think about it when they have an accent, but they do know it. But when it comes to myself or anybody who's from the deaf community, sometimes we are nervous to say, hey, can you talk a little bit slower, or can you rephrase it with a different word? So that way we can kind of understand what you're saying. So I that would be the top three for accommodation, and also as well like social media. So let's say if I'm doing a Zoom call for a business meeting, I expect closed caption to be on, just because that way help me to communicate, just in case if there's a glitch in the internet, because again, Wi-Fi always up and down all the time. So yeah, those are my top
Mm-hmm.
four accommodation.
I was actually just about to ask about that because we're doing a video call right now to record this, and I'm doing my best to try to keep my face forward so that you can see. But I know I have a tendency to talk quickly. I wear headphones whenever I'm doing one of these because I just find that helpful. But I was kind of wondering that like I was wondering if video calls might be a little bit easier or not. 'Cause yeah.
It's fine. It's fine here. I would say it's not a big deal because a lot of people don't know. My hearing aids is very, very amazing. And it's like a Bluetooth connected to my hearing aid. So I didn't really have to wear like a big headset just to make sure I can hear very well. So I'm grateful for that. And also I have a really good technology. So my iPad, it's an Apple. So now Apple is starting to be more acceptable now, which is I'm very interesting. A lot of people don't know that. And I said, yeah, Apple's starting to become more acceptable for sure.
Yeah, that reminds me, at the event that we met in person at, there was like a vendor there. I guess they had a booth, and there was an app they were talking about called Bettear. It's Bettear. So like Bett, and then ear. And I'm just looking on my phone again to make sure that I have the right thing. And they said that was they were partnering with more and more places to support that. So as you said, you can connect to Bluetooth and go straight into your phone and then into your headphones to work as like a sort of bonus remote hearing aid. And I thought that was a really neat idea to make things generally a bit more accessible.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm very excited, but I'm a little bit nervous because of the pricing. Just because I know a lot of people cannot afford it. Sometimes the insurance won't be covered. Sometimes they have to pay up whatever's left over. So that's what I'm like a little nervous about. Like I'm excited for the changes, but just the cost has got me a little like nervous. So
Okay. The next question here on my list, what discrimination or microaggressions do you experience the most often due to your disability?
I would say workplace at the most. I would say I think a lot of us can talk about this. I would say I remember one time I was currently working at a grocery store, and it was during COVID. I did got discrimination a lot. So it was so funny. So I couldn't hear what my supervisor was saying through the mask. And so I told her like, "Hey, I'm hard of hearing. Like, I cannot communicate with you very well because I need to read lips." So then she literally said to me, she's like, "Oh, why did you not disclose that in an interview when I was interviewing you?" And I was like, I really didn't think that was supposed to be a big of a deal. Like, I'm still doing my work really well. It's just you're talking to me. I can't really communicate with you with the mask on. And so she was very disrespectful. And moving forward, she still continued doing the same thing after I keep telling her what is my accommodation are, and she was still disrespectful. And I ended up quitting because she was not accommodating. So that I would say that was my very first bad experience in a workplace. And thankfully that was the only one. I used to work at a kind of Wonderland. I love working at Park because it was just more convenient and they're way more accommodating than anybody else, I would say, to be honest. But if you're working at a grocery store, I would highly advise you to make sure you have a really good supervisor. It's very hard to find a good supervisor who can accommodate you. But yeah, I would say that's the number one thing I would face a lot. So workplace, yeah.
Yeah, the mask thing is an unfortunate for time. It was very critical, and I'd say in some cases still definitely is critical to protect when you're sick or when you're. I still wear a mask a lot of the time because I hate being sick in general, and but that very obviously when I was at that event, I took my mask down a few times to speak to one person in particular who couldn't really understand me without it. So I'm sorry to hear that was a problem, that she wasn't more receptive and understanding. Um, have you had better luck with jobs since that?
Yes, 100% since then. I realized that it's best if you exclude that in the first half of the interview just so that I don't have to go through the same thing that I went through. And ever since, I had no problem with my work, my job, or anything like that. So overall, I had really good experience because I felt confident in myself to say, you know what, I have to let them know because I don't want to be embarrassed when I go to the field and I can't do the work because they didn't know. So ever since that, no problem.
That's really good. Um, yeah, I'm gonna take a brief segue, I guess, here to talk about. I brought this up on the show before, but I have a I just happens to have a handy prop here. Oh, that's not gonna work very well. Let me just do this instead. Um, yeah, so I started a company officially earlier this year called Artie Mix Events, which is based on my last name, and it's the thing on the screen here, it says for playful creative connection for grown-ups. That's not all it is. I also do consulting, and I am helping actually tomorrow on July, we're recording this on July 14th. Tomorrow on July 15th, I'm helping to run an event with someone that I'm working with. And so there I'm sort of doing like just logistics and event support, which is something else that I also do. But one of the key factors for me, like I got frustrated because for me with the sensory issues primarily, I find very few venues, very few events are kind of like sensory accessible. Like usually there's like loud music, which affects my hard of hearingness, that when there's loud music and it's a social event, I'm like, how am I supposed to talk to people if I have to yell to have a
Yeah.
conversation? Like that's just so dumb. And sometimes just other things, but I also have several friends who are wheelchair users. And I'm very aware of how inaccessible the city is in that regard. Most of the older buildings are not wheelchair accessible at all. And so kind of knowing that I'm part of multiple different types of disability, and I have friends who are in many of the other types. It's like, if I'm going to do events, then I want this, like, I want playfulness and creativity and connection to be more accessible to people. And I also want the just events period to be more accessible to people in general. So that's one of the important things for me. Thank you. With that, and I do my best to try to, I've been building a custom venue database to try to keep track of different types of accessibility for different venues, and trying to find places that I can confidently schedule an event there. I'd be like, okay, maybe it's not the easiest place to get to in terms of, like, transit or whatever,
Yeah.
but if you can at least know that you can get in and you're not going to be overwhelmed in sensory ways, then that I want that. I know it's a very niche market, and I'm not going to be having people lined up around the block for it necessarily, but it is important, and it's something that I'm trying to do my part towards.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, because one of the other things that I found is just there's really not very many people who are interested or willing to step up and kind of take that kind of initiative. Like, people want to go to events, but they don't want to run them. And I'm like, well, I got to a point where I'm like, I guess I'm going to do it because no one else will. So um, you mentioned earlier that you have written 4 books. I should have done better homework. Shame on me as a host, but I'm gonna guess that they all relate to kind of your triumphs as a disabled person. Can you tell us a little bit about each of the books?
Yeah, so my very first book is on Amazon. Well, actually, all four of my books, everyone. Everyone is there. So just go online and just type in Kellina Powell, see all my books there. So my very first book is called Every Day I Am Just Deaf. It's actually a poem book, and it's really about me being deaf since from 4 years old to 23 years old. Because I published my book when I was 22, turning 23. And so I published my book at a young age, and then my second book and third and fourth book are all collaboration book with other entrepreneurs, other disability people, and we just coming together to talk about our stories, our businesses, and why are we creating a business, and what are we really doing to impact the younger generation, and really trying to make a world a different different world. Sorry. And as well, so my last book that I just published is disability business owners. So it's basically where all different business owners come together who have different disabilities, which is very cool. And we kind of created like a dialogue for people who want to start a business, who can come together and who want to read a book about starting any type of business. So that's basically those are my 4 books so far. So
Okay, very cool. Yeah, the one book that I wrote was a young adult short fiction novel. So not nearly as impressive, but I am working on a memoir, which hopefully I'll be able to finish sometime by the end of 2026.
nice, I love
um,
that.
yeah, because I've been through a lot in my life. I'm kind of technically on my third career now, and just always kind of going in new directions and learning new things. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I also wanted to ask. Obviously, I would imagine that you're very proud of having written 4 books. But aside from that, what would you say that you were most proud of accomplishing in your life?
I there's so many lists. I don't know which one can I say. I don't know. I accomplished so many things in my life. I would say the one thing that I accomplished, it was able to make an impact over 1,000 youth, just because I was able to speak with a lot of schools, nonprofits, and able to like put a smile on the youth face to say like, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. So that would be the very definitely highlight of my career and my success is being able to impact over 1,000 youth. I would say that would definitely my impact. Even though I wrote really good books, collaboration, but the youth smile, especially that number's so big, and I didn't realize how much I impacted the youth such a short time because I started my company and my journey, I would say 3 years. So I started my entrepreneur journey. Now there's 2025 can be 4 years. So making that huge impact such a short time is very rewarding experience ever.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I know with my efforts having been focused a lot more in the speaking world in the last year, I've had similar things where I've spoken in some capacity or performed and had people, complete strangers, come up to me out of nowhere, just be like, "You were so good. That was really great," and like just yeah. As someone who grew up very like shy and awkward and introverted and low self-esteem, like I will never get over that. It's like, how did
Right.
I get here? So I know what you
Exactly. And
mean.
you always question yourself, like, wow, like I really got here. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a little late, but better late than never.
no, never say that. Never say that. No.
Yeah.
It's never late. I always tell people it's never there's no such thing as I'm gonna be late. It's just the right moment, the right time. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've seen this is something I used to complain about when I was still in my 30s. I'm only, a year out of them at this point, but I used to complain that like there's all this focus on like, 20 under 20 and 30 under 30, but like they never do 40 under 40 or 50 under 50. And it's like after you're 30 years old, they kind of just you're not as important. And it's unfortunate because there are a lot of people that didn't really find their stride and their big success until they were in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of I'm gonna have to try to be one of those examples of like someone who made it after 40.
Exactly. And like I always tell people too, like look at the people who are successful. They didn't become successful until the late 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s now. And I tell people, look at them, for example. Like there's no such thing as getting rich in your 30s and 40s. I feel like this way. I feel like in your 20s, you find out who you are, what you like to do. And in your 30s, it's all about put into work, put into action, do what you want to do. And then you're 40, you're gonna build a legacy. You're going to crush it, do what something you want to do. And so I feel like that's how I look at the 20, 30 to 40 time frame. And that's how a lot of people become successful in the late life because the way how they structure it. So
Yeah, absolutely. I know one of the things for me, with all the experiences that I have gone through, aside from writing this memoir, I'm starting to get into coaching now. And it's kind of funny because I've had a few friends over the years kind of be like, Lacey, have you ever thought about like coaching? I think you'd make a really good coach. And I used to be like, I don't know if that's right for me. I don't know if that's like the thing for me. And then last year, something finally kind of clicked for me. And I started to kind of feel like, okay, I think I get what you're like. I started to kind of see how like, oh, I've learned so many lessons and I've been through coaching and I've been through therapy and I've made a lot of mistakes. So like I know I can help other people not make some of the same mistakes, or I can tell them like, oh, don't flounder around for 10 years like I did. Like here's where to actually get started and save yourself a lot of trouble. So and like now getting into speaking from not being in that world, so I feel like there is a lot that I can offer there, and so I'm excited to get into that now. Thank you.
yay!
I want to offer you a chance if there's anything, whether you want to just kind of share like a simple final thought, or you want to go on a rant, if you want to give a little short inspirational speech. I want to give you the last chance here to just really to take us home on the final word.
Yeah, I would say the final word, if anybody's here listening, I would say remember that you have one life to live. Tomorrow's not a promise. Never allow your disability to find who you are and your success. However, yes, disability to find who we are as a person, but it does not mean that you cannot become successful. It will take some time for you to get to the end destination, but it will require a lot of work and strength. Some days gonna be good days, some days gonna be bad days. I know for sure I have always have bad days, and it's normal and it's okay to have bad days. I don't want you to go into the world thinking that I'm gonna kill it and I'm gonna do this and that and it doesn't work out. Just never give up hope on yourself because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, you have one life to live and you are the only person responsible for your own self. And that's my last final word.
That was beautiful. Nicely said. I want to thank you for coming on the show with me today to talk about this and to have a lovely little chat about disability and inspiration and just coaching and all the things. So, I this is a great thing I love about doing this show and doing podcasting is I do get to speak to peers and other people that are doing things that I'm so jazzed that we're kind of on a similar track and that we're kind of going in similar direction. We want to help people make the world a better place. So yes. You can find again Kellina at on Instagram at Deaf Queen Boss. Her website is KellinaEmpowerment.com, and she's also on LinkedIn. We're connected there as well. So please do check her out. I'll have links in the show notes to all of her stuff, including her books. And yeah, I'm sure on your website, if you have any upcoming sort of like appearances or things, they could find that there as well, right?
Yes. So I don't have anything coming out because of right now. Because it's summertime, so right now I'm actually currently moving everyone. So right now, the summer, I'm on a summer break. September, I think I will have something coming up. I am actually in the process of starting a youth deaf summer camp, but because there's so many things happening, I may have to postpone it for September. So I'm definitely gonna be creating like a little camp get together for youth who are deaf and hard of hearing.
Very nice. Okay, with that said, I want to thank the audience for tuning in with us to Hat Collecting, the Special Disability Experience series. Again, thank you to Kellina for joining me, and stay tuned for the next episode coming up soon. Have a good
Thank
time,
you.
everyone. All
Yes.
right.